good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, 7 p.m. It's the Denver Bronco Roundup. I'm your host, Keith Brugman. I appreciate you, everyone, jumping in here this evening. It's a big day, man. 53-man roster. That's where we had to get, and we're right here covering it, every single minute of it. We're going to start off by bringing in one of the co-hosts you know so well, the Albert Mile High Dutchie. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. And yourself?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Long day, man. It's just like today is one of those days where you're in it, you're updating, you're watching everything every single minute, up to the minute, trying to get all the updates, making sure that you're up to speed, ready to go to a show like this. And, one thing that makes it really easy is when you have fantastic co-hosts. I've got Albert just to the side of me right here. But though he's experiencing a little bit of IT issues, may not have the best video, we've got the legend, the myth, the man himself, Mr. Lance Sanderson of the Mile High Huddle. Welcome, Lance. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, man. I'm so excited for you to help break down everything that we saw happen today. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right, and hopefully everybody can hear me. And we're working through this right now. I've got a bad internet connection going on, so hopefully everyone, if nothing else, can hear me. But I'm doing good. It's been a huge news day. Obviously, the 53-man roster breakdown is the topic of conversation here today, but big news obviously with Albert Okwuegbunam, Will Lutz coming in here. Let's get into it. I don't want to give the spoilers out too soon. Let's get into it and let's have some fun, man.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think first things first, the easy ones to knock right off the bat are those ones that, hey, it's like no give backs at this point. Unless we don't pass a physical or something like that. We had a couple of things go down today that are absolutely no give backs. A lot of things are going to be fluctuating, as George Payton, as Sean Payton said, over the next 48 to 72 hours. But Alberto, I'll just say that because I'm not going to mess it up like the national broadcasters do. Alberto and Will Lutz are two pieces that absolutely are like no givebacks. I'm going to start with you, Lance. Like, you're our guest. You're in tune with this. Go off on one of these. I'll give you one. Your choice. Start us off on the conversation, sir.
Well, first things first, obviously the Albert Okwuegbunam news was the biggest thing. That was the biggest piece of information we got, and it happened kind of early. And the information changed as well, because what was originally told to us was that Albert Okwuegbunam was waived and that he was not going to be a part of this roster no matter what. So then a little while later, come to find out the Philadelphia Eagles in, and they said, we'll trade you our 2025 6th-round pick in exchange for Albert Okwuegbunam and a 2025 7th-round pick. So at least the Broncos got their ham sandwich for a guy like Albert Okwuegbunam. I'm not trying to disparage the name of or the talent that he brings. I mean, when you're 6'5", 258-pound, run 4.4, you've got athletic talent. Like, this dude is a freak of an athlete, but he couldn't put it all together. He was not consistent catching the football. He wasn't consistent as a blocker. And it was time for him to move on. And hopefully he has a great career, the rest of his NFL career with the Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully he catches on there and can actually be the player that we all thought that he could be, because again, that talent it drips off the screen when you watch it. That last game against the Rams was just incredible. So I feel for Alberto, and unfortunately he's not a Bronco anymore, but it was time to move on.
Yeah, time to move on from Alberto. That's a roster position that's deep. On this roster, it was one that we knew we were going to struggle to try to get all the people we wanted on the roster, depending upon who you are as a fan or as an analyst. So Alberto down the road, we do get a little bit in return. Albert, just give me your 2 cents on this as well. I want to get your thoughts.
I want to upgrade the ham sandwich to a Philly cheeseburger or thingy.
Philly cheesesteak, yes.
Yeah, that one.
That one.
Because if we just had waived him, somebody else could have picked him up for free, and we wouldn't have gotten nothing. Now we got at least a sixth rounder back in 2025. It cost us a seventh rounder, but it is more than to me in ham sandwich, and I think that was a little bit of an upgrade. So I really hope that he will get a decent shot there with the Eagles.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I will say is I don't know how many opportunities he had. He was healthy scratched almost all of last season. Had a hard time even getting on the playing field. You know, other people were moved up the roster in Hackett's system because of that. He's a guy that just always seemed like it. You know, boy, if he got a chance, got to get out there, got to be in a rhythm, maybe we would see a little bit more fruits of all his skill sets. And as you listed, Lance, his speed, his height. I mean, this guy drips talent, but really was never able to put it together in the little bit of time that he did have on the field, and never got a whole lot of opportunity on the field. We'll see if that changes heading up to Philadelphia. Certainly, he's in a system where they're going to love tight ends. So if there's a spot for him to shine, and he's allowed to jump up in that depth chart, then hey, maybe he's got a chance to turn a career around, because it's been a little bit rough here, right here in Broncos country. Got to get to this one real quick. Got a Facebook user coming in, and we have trouble with comments. I don't know how much you guys have trouble over there, Lance, but this is Ernie Mays, and he's saying, "Hello, Lance. Go Broncos country only." And we can always tell when it's Ernie Mays with the only. Thank you, Ernie, for jumping in. Always a pleasure to see you here.
So
I was going to let Lance say hello as well. I'm sorry, bud.
Ernie's awesome, man. He's on every single one of our shows over at the podcast, the Mile High Huddle podcast. I always get that wrong. No, they changed their name. It's not Huddle Up Podcast. It's the Mile High Huddle Podcast. But regardless, Ernie is a big supporter of the show. He's a great friend of mine on Facebook as well. So glad to see him chat. What's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, good to see you, Ernie. Thanks for jumping in again. I got our good friend Kenny. This is one of our friends saying, "Evening, fellows. Have a great show tonight. Can only stay for a few minutes. I will listen for sure later on." Well, thanks, Kenny. I appreciate it a ton. And Michelle Knopper's coming in saying, "Evening, gents. Hey, Lance. Great to see you." So Lance getting that special treatment this evening. Congratulations, buddy.
Love Michelle. She's such a sweetheart. Albert, you outkicked your coverage on that one, because she's amazing, and you're amazing too. I'm not trying to be mean here, but Michelle's amazing, man. She was so fun. I can't wait to see you guys. We're doing the Mile High Huddle meet and greet. I'm a place right now. Mile High Huddle meet and greet is week 7 against the Green Bay Packers, so we're all going to be there. I will be there. Eric's going to be there as well. So can't wait to see everybody to join us there if you guys are able and willing to do so.
Is it against the Packers or is it against the Jets?
It's the Packers game. It's the Packers game. Yep. It's the Packers game, week 7, October 22nd, I believe is the day.
Okay.
Should be an awesome time. You guys over at the Mile High Huddle absolutely rock, and appreciate all the support that you guys show us, and appreciate everything that you guys put out there, because you guys' coverage is absolutely fantastic. So go out there, support them, hit them up at the meet and greet. Again, October 22nd, we believe it is, week 7, Green Bay Packers. Check them out, guys. Fun time. So get to one. Oh, I guess I got to all of them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Kenny is helping out with the K&K show, so he cannot be here.
Yeah. The K&K show, fantastic guys over there. That's what Kenny's a part of. But all being said, like, guys, I thought it was a perfect transition just a moment ago. Lance said, "Albert, you've outkicked your coverage." Well, that gets us right over to the other one that we were talking about. Will Lutz comes over from the New Orleans Saints. Give me your thoughts on that, Albert. We'll go back around the horn, bring Lance in as well.
Sean Payton must really like this guy. He has worked with him before. From what I saw from Maher, or however you want to say it, I think he did a terrific job, except for the first game against the Cardinals. But there could have been the field too. From what I saw, I really like Maher too. But we will see what Lutz can do.
Yeah, Lance, I'll get your 2 cents on this as well.
So the big thing here is let's forget the addition of well, I guess let's not forget, because it's a big key thing. But we got to add into the con of this thing. Now the Broncos are paying 4 kickers because they're still paying Brandon McManus a little bit off of the left of his contract. They're paying a little bit to Elliott Fry. They're paying a little bit to Brett Maher, and now they just got Will Lutz. The combination of those 4 is more than what they were going to pay Brandon McManus if they just brought Brandon McManus back. Like that's a big piece of context I think we need to bring into this. However, I like Will Lutz. I think that he's got a big leg. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's struggled over the last couple of seasons. I believe last year he was below 80% conversion rate on field goals. So that's kind of concerns me. But he's always kicked well in Denver. I believe he has a 61-yarder to his name as well. He's got a big leg. There's a lot of talent there. I'm curious to see what this actually looks like moving forward, because you never know. I mean, the snap to holder exchange and then the exchange from holder to the ground for the kicker to kick the ball, that's something you got to practice. It's not something that just comes naturally, you know. So this is something that we gotta see with this combination moving forward. That's pretty much the only commentary I have on that. I like Will Lutz, and like I said, he's, again, big leg, a guy that Sean Payton's familiar with, a guy that Mike Westhoff is familiar with. I believe Ben Katwika has some rapport with him as well. So at least they're bringing in a familiar face, a guy that's used to being on this coaching staff. So to me, I'm not huge on the move. I think that Brett Maher did enough to kind of solidify his job and be the kicker moving forward. But you never know. I mean, apparently the Broncos know something that I don't, and they wanted Will Lutz to be part of this organization moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the big thing is just going back to, you know, the inconsistencies that he had, you know, obviously going down the stretch, you know, when he was with the Cowboys, and then maybe seeing a little bit of that when we already saw week 1 preseason with the Denver Broncos. It's a place that, boy, it should be a place of strength when you're talking about, you know, being a Denver Bronco. I don't care if you're punting. I don't care if you're a kickoff. I don't care if you're a field goal. This should be a place that we excel. And maybe that was just one place that Sean Payton just couldn't look past and said, you know what, we need to get somebody in here, somebody I know, somebody who's consistent. And obviously, as he had spoke, it's a competition that they've been looking at for quite some time. As you know, Will Lutz was a guy that I think he always aimed to try to bring to the Denver Broncos, and ultimately that's where we ended up with. So, Lance, we do have a question coming in. This is from Kenny over at the K&K Sports Show. Like he said, he only has a little bit of time, so I wanted to jump this in. He says, my comment for tonight for the three of you. Broncos, while Judy is out, thin at wide receiver. Whom do you think could be a waiver add? My Giants released Jamison Crowder, and I think he could help the Broncos in the slot and punt return game. Please answer if and when appropriate. Thanks, guys. So thank you, Kenny. Really appreciate you, as always. Great question. Lance, we are desperately thin at wide receiver as we came to the 53-man roster, especially with Jerry Jeudy, at least on an IR. Don't expect him back probably week 1, probably somewhere in that week 2 to 4 range. What are we going to do about that wide receiver? Do we bring guys back that we've already seen on this roster through the practice squad and back into the 53, or are we going outside like Kenny's suggesting here?
So when I saw that Jamison Crowder was released from the Giants, I was like, you know what, that's a name there. You got a trusty, reliable slot receiver that works well over the middle of the field. He's a guy that catches pretty much everything that's thrown his way. And I was very intrigued by that possibility. And the more that I thought about it, you know, the New Orleans Saints, and I haven't followed all their roster cuts and what they've done so far, breaking their roster down to 53. But a guy that I know has a lot of experience with Sean Payton is Traquan Smith, who I think fills a very similar role to what Jamison Crowder does, only he brings some more deep speed. Jamison Crowder is not a guy that's going to be like able to take the top off of the defense. He works well over the middle of the field. He understands zones. He understands how to get himself open. But Traquan Smith is a guy that brings that speed element that the Broncos are kind of missing right now, even with Marvin Mims on the roster, because how much can you trust a rookie wide receiver picked in the second round? I mean, yeah, the Broncos traded up to get him, but how much can you trust that guy come in and step in and stay within this offense with Cortland Sutton and Brandon Johnson being the other guy that the Broncos are going to carry as that Z receiver? So with Jerry Jeudy out, Tre'Quan Smith knowing the offense is the big thing here. He understands what Sean Payton wants him to do. He's been with Sean Payton multiple different years before now. That would be the guy that I'm really looking forward to. But Jamison Crowder is definitely on my radar as a guy. If you can get him on a veteran minimum deal, hopefully he comes in here and he learns quickly. He can understand this offense as well. But the added threat of Tre'Quan Smith and stretching this field vertically is something that I'm really interested in.
Very good, man. For anybody that's just joining us or picking us up right now, Lance is dialing with 1995 dial-up internet right now, so audio and video is just a little bit sketchy. Just kidding. Just a little bit of issues where he's at in his part of the country right now. And as Albert put out there, possibly a solar flare affecting us as well. That all being said, we love having Lance here, and he has fantastic input. Appreciate that, and I'm sure Kenny does as well. Albert, what is your thoughts, man? Outside, inside? Is it a guy that we've already seen on the Broncos? Is it someone outside of the Broncos? Do you have any thoughts on this right off the bat?
Yeah, I do. Little Jordan Humphrey will probably come back. He is if he clears the waivers, and with Jerry Jeudy, he probably is going to be back on the second game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
He went to an MRI earlier today, and so far we haven't heard anything back except for good news. So, yeah, we are a little thin. I still think that little Jordan Humphrey comes back, and they are going to look on for another one to see maybe on the roster. And don't forget, we have one wide receiver in hiding, and we call him a tight end. And I think that is what Greg Dulcich is going to be.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
I know that you guys over at the Mile High Huddle, even Scott Kennedy over there, he's been preaching that as well, just calling him a receiver at this point. Because he doesn't want to label him a tight end, doesn't want to label him a wide receiver. And to Albert's point, I think he's going to be utilized especially when on the field, mainly in that role. Not a blocking position, mainly a wide receiver or receiver, as, like I said, Scott's been saying as well.
Yep. I want to add something. I want to add something really quick here on what Albert was saying with Lil Jordan Humphrey. Mike Kliss has actually confirmed, or at least has reported and confirmed that Lil Jordan Humphrey is not going anywhere. He was released earlier today, and he is expected to re-sign with the Broncos practice squad. So that is something that came just a few minutes before we went live here tonight. So Albert, you got a good insight there. Lil Jordan Humphrey is going to be on this team, and he could be a guy that they bring up as a call up because he's a quality special teams player as well. Like he does a really good job running down on kick return and punt return. So that's a big move that I think is going to happen here soon.
Just to stay on this conversation and maybe answer Kenny's question a little bit from my perspective, one guy that I really want to see that I saw released, wasn't a major surprise that he was released, but certainly would like to see on the practice squad and maybe even the opportunity to move up to the 53 at some point, and that's Mr. Taylor Grimes, number 13, that was out there. Believe me, 1 week of training camp, and to see this guy and the way he runs his routes and the separation that he gets from every single string on this roster is quite amazing. I think they were trying to hide him. He was out there late in that game three of the preseason, but they didn't even look his way. It was all about Michael Bandy at that point. We can talk about him as well because he was a cut, but it was all about DiNucci and Bandy, it seemed like, and I wonder if it was do not throw to Taylor Grimes. We do not want him showing out on this final game 3. We already had that problem, and we can get to this name as well with Jaleel McLaughlin. We already knew that he was going to have to make this 53 just because of the way he showed out in the preseason, and Sean Payton did too.
And I think that's what they did with Albert O. In the last game. They really showcased him.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to shop him and let's see what he can do. Throw at him as much as possible, and let him be the star of the game. Of the game, and we got a Philly cheesesteak for it.
We got a Philly cheesesteak for it. Yeah, like they even said, it's basically a swap. I don't think you're expecting to be lights on fire, Super Bowl winners as the Denver Broncos. So don't expect to be, too low, I guess you could say, in the 6th round, but also not too high. And if everything is confirmed with the Philadelphia Eagles, it should be a low pick. You know what I mean? If they continue to do what they did last year, so not a kind of a pick swap. It did not a huge upgrade, but at least you get something. Philly cheesesteak, ham sandwich, whatever it happened to be. I did want to get to just a few other positions. I just mentioned that Jaleel McLaughlin was one. We end up keeping 3 running backs on this roster. Lance, what was your initial thoughts on that position?
Well, first and foremost, congratulations to Jaleel McLaughlin. Obviously, the all-time leading rusher in NCAA history coming out of Youngstown State. But this dude's a jitterbug, as Dave Logan actually called him on the game, calling the game on Saturday. He said, this dude runs like a water bug. He's impossible to catch. He's so jittery. He's so fast. He's so explosive. And something that I didn't really realize when I was watching the Youngstown State, I got a little bit of it when everyone was starting to talk about him earlier in training camp. The vision. This dude has incredible vision. He understands what his blocks are doing in front of him, and he can find the smallest little crease and get himself skinny and just to explode through that hole. I'm so proud of what he's able to do. Coming like an undrafted free agent, you come out, you show the receiving ability, you show the running ability. Pass protection is a different story, but he took advantage of an opportunity, and unfortunately for Tyler Beatty, a guy who came into camp as running back number 3, he ended up having that ankle injury, was sat down for a couple weeks, and McLaughlin every touched the football. Whether it was in camp, whether it was in games, in practice, it didn't matter. He was always making plays, and that's what you want to see. And that's the kind of the unfortunate aspect, the opposite side of the Albert Okwuegbunam conversation here. Albert O, for 3 years, was kind of the missing man. And then over this last couple of weeks, he was just gangbusters in practice. He had a great game against the Rams. But you can't erase what you've put on tape for 1,000 days in 14 days. Jaleel McLaughlin has college tape, and then he went out there for 30 days, and also including in OTAs and stuff. And he put out quality tape every time he touched the football. He made plays. That's the opposite spectrum here, and I'm so happy that he's going to be a part of this roster, and I think they're going to have a big role for him this year. I really do. I think that he might get 30 targets in the passing game this year.
I wouldn't doubt it one bit, and just a fantastic point, Lance. I appreciate that. The difference between, like you said, you can't erase years in 14 days, and what he was able to do in 30 days, piggybacking off of his college career. Tyler Beatty, Tony Jones Jr., he had to push both of those guys down the roster in order to, put himself in the position that he is today. And a fantastic body of work, and congratulations to him. Albert.
And absolutely congratulations. And the story behind it. How many of his previous career life, let's call it that way, he has lived on the street or in the side of a car, sleeping in a car.
Yep.
And in 30 days, he turned it around, and probably he can now provide for his family for the rest of his life. And
on the track.
And it's a remarkable story, and I know we have many of those stories. We have seen it with Philip Lindsay a little bit, but I think that Jaleel will have a better story than Philip Lindsay.
I do too.
Quite a few. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying I do too. I think that Jaleel McLaughlin brings more to the fold than what Philip Lindsay did. But go ahead, Keith, take us off.
Oh no, I appreciate that. I agree with you. Philip Lindsay was that hometown kid everyone loved. He had some amazing runs and was capable of doing some things. Just didn't have that full rounded game. I know that even at this offseason, there was a lot of people saying, why not bring him back? He fits a Sean Payton type of offense. Just think if we would have missed out on Jaleel McLaughlin, I think we got a diamond in the rough. Can't wait to see what happens there. A few diamonds in the rough. We kept a few undrafted free agents on this roster, which was pretty amazing. And quite honestly, the roster turnover was quite large. Lance, I'll let you go open topic. What's another place, another position, another player that you would like to talk to that maybe was surprising or just deserves the conversation here?
Well, let's go to the opposite side of the football here for a minute and talk about Elijah Garcia, because this dude, undrafted out of Rice, came out and was struggling in practice. He was getting bullied every single day from what it seemed like. But every time the lights came on, this dude went out and made play after play after play. The Cardinals game, he had a pair of cleanup sacks, and I'll call them cleanup sacks because that's pretty much what they were. But he had a couple of sacks against the Arizona Cardinals, knocked down a pass against the 49ers, recovered the fumble that Drew Sanders had after his interception return against the Los Angeles Rams. He played well against the run. He did a good job controlling his gap. And while he still needs to understand the awareness of what is going on with him and around him, and understanding, just like how to attack double teams and stuff like that, and just refine his technique, this dude came out, he made the roster. And that's an amazing thing for an undrafted guy, especially when you're going against a guy that is like Matt Henningsen, playing the exact same position, who played last season, played really well against the run. And Henningsen had a hell of a preseason as well. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But Garcia was the guy that was out there making plays every time he was on the field. And that's something that you have to see in games for a guy like him to be able to make this roster. Big shout out to Elijah Garcia, man.
And I want to piggyback on that. And I think between Henningsen and Garcia, those two together, I think that's what made it possible. Because they made it possible together. And I think that is where their strength come from. Both of them are I think they work really, really well together. They talk and they collaborate. I think that is where both of their strengths come from, the combination.
Yeah. One thing that you've absolutely seen from Sean Payton, this coaching staff, and the way they execute in training camp in these preseason games, you see the coaching, you see the molding. It never stops. It happens all the way down to player-to-player interaction, and it's a fantastic thing. It's the thing that a lot of people are saying, this offensive line needs to come together, this offensive line needs to come together. That communication, that type of, and the defensive line on the same thing, but offensive line, we all know that's a group that absolutely needs to work as one single unit. The communication that they're getting from coaching between each other, it's going to pay dividends. It might take a few weeks. Again, keep in mind, everyone's so excited. Everyone's so excited here in Broncos country about our Denver Broncos. New coach, new system, tons of new players. It might take a week or two to really get clicking. I know that we get a little bit excited, especially coming off of that week 3 preseason game, but it might take a little bit, but it will click, and I have no doubt about it just because of what we've seen from the staff so far. Another thing that we've seen is fantastic support from Michael Ronquillo. I know that you've seen it, Lance. We've seen it. Michael, big old salute coming from Lance. Man, Lance, I think your internet is working fantastic at the moment. I just realized that. You're back, baby.
I was going to say,
out of 1995 all the way to 23, baby.
I can actually see you guys moving now. This is fun. Let's have fun with this now.
All right. This is fantastic. No, but Michael coming in here, I jumped ahead because he says, "Good evening, Albert, Keith, and Lance." He's doubling up on some of these comments, so I jumped ahead. So good evening to you, Michael. Always great to see you. Appreciate you. And yes, I'll give you one of those great big old salutes as well. So he's coming in saying Sean Payton and the coaching staff will be there till 2 a.m. looking at the waiver wire. Yeah, big day, lots of news. George Payton thinks he's getting an early out because they used to stay till 5 a.m. And, Sean's letting them out at 2 a.m. according to him. So we'll see who wins, see who gets out the door at what particular time. But it is an absolutely big day. We've just begun. They've talked about it. The next 48 to 72 hours, we're going to see a lot, guys. Right now, it shows that we have 4 wide receivers on the roster, one of which is on IR. It's one of the reasons we were talking about who gets moved up, who comes into the practice squad, who is brought in from outside. We're going to see moves. We're not going to only have 3 wide receivers on the 53 come game day number 1. Just isn't going to happen. There's going to be a lot of fluctuation. 2 a.m., 5 a.m., Sean Payton, George Payton. Either way, we got a lot of work ahead of us, and when we wake up tomorrow morning, we're probably going to be just bombarded with news from our Broncos and across the league.
Yeah.
Albert, I gave
Yes.
Lance that opportunity to talk about just about anybody he wanted to on this roster. There was releases, there was obviously trades we've already went over, but give me the guy that you maybe points out in your head or sticks out in your head that we either gave that vote of confidence to or maybe pushed out the door at least temporarily.
So the one I would like to talk about is Drew Sanders. I know he is not a Micah Parsons, but he is a mini Micah Parsons. He is a from what I can see and what I have seen, he isn't a sideline to sideline guy. He can rush the passer, and he can keep up with tight ends. And I think we only have scratched the surface with Drew Sanders. I really like what I'm seeing from him, and he definitely deserves to be on the spot. And I don't believe that, I don't think that he will be a backup guy for long. That he will be a starter week 7, week 8. That he's going to be a starter.
Elevating up over a Jewel or a Singletary, you're already getting him on the field. That would be amazing. That would be huge.
Bold prediction.
And that is a bold prediction.
A bold prediction.
Yeah, I like the talent that he has. I like his run to the ball. I just think it's going to take, especially at that position, a little bit more time to get yourself up to NFL speed and up to Sean Payton speed in the defense. But an absolute unbelievable talent that I think that can make a difference. And if we do want to look ahead, if we want to get a little bit excited, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, and you start talking about playoff runs and possibly into the playoffs, it's guys like Drew Sanders who end up coming in for a series, making huge plays for you because of the type of athlete that he is. Mm-hmm. And could absolutely see him being a spark plug for this defense and for this team. So I'm going to bring up one, guys, because one that was kind of surprising to me. I'm looking at all these names, and I could go over quite a few. Offensive tackle Isaiah Prince. I know this was an early release. It's one of the ones that we saw come right out the gate. But in a place where, man, we're a little iffy maybe on the left tackle side, and we saw Isaiah Prince come in and kind of fill that role and was getting starts with the ones and, was honestly looking like a possibility that he was going to make this roster. We're not really deep in that position. I was kind of maybe it's a guy that gets brought back on that practice squad, but Isaiah Prince is one that was surprising to me. I don't expect it just because of when he got released. He's almost released like, hey, maybe you have an opportunity to go out there and get a job someplace, Isaiah.
Right. I think the bigger name you need to look at the offensive tackle position is the guy that made it, and Alex Palczewski, who played absolutely fantastic on the right tackle position. And unfortunately, it sounds like he's going to be moved. He made the initial roster, and it sounds like he's going to be put on injured reserve with the designation to return. So he's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season because he was out there and dislocated one of his fingers, got it put back into place, and then went back out there and played again. This dude has just been absolutely phenomenal in terms of what he's brought to the right tackle position. He's going to be he's a developmental player, and I know he played left tackle in college as well, so you could probably look at that a little bit. Cam Fleming is a great player in terms of a swing tackle, but if you need a guy like Palczewski, who, from what I understand, was going to get claimed off of waivers, this dude went out there and, like I said, he was incredible. He was absolutely incredible out there. Probably one of the most consistent, if not the most consistent offensive lineman when looking at the tape. And I do got to give a quick shout out to Demontre Jacobs. He got hurt in the game against the Rams on Saturday. We had an ankle and a knee injury. But when you go back and look at him and his ability with the All-22 and get away from the broadcast angle, when you get the All-22, you get the backside of it and understand what actually is going on. Demontre Jacobs played very well for all 3 of the preseason games. It was a limited rotation snaps, but at least he showed that he had the ability. That might be a guy I'm not sure if they put him on injured reserve yet or not. I think they actually just waived him with an injury designation. But if he gets brought back to the practice squad, watch out for that guy as well. And Isaiah Prince, Keith, I'm not going to try to bash you down here at all. I wasn't necessarily as impressed as you were with him, but I was impressed. You know what? Like I'm not trying to be mean here. I wasn't impressed as you were, but I was impressed. I thought that he actually had the chops. If you want to bring him back as a practice squad candidate, you could definitely do that as well. Like there's athleticism, there's length, there's good technique. He's got good footwork. He moves really well. He does a great job in the running game as well, at least against the second and third stringers he was going against. And he started, like you said, against the Cardinals and showed pretty well. It gave up one big sack, had a holding penalty as well. But I thought that there was a lot of room to work with Isaiah Prince. If you want a developmental tackle, that's a guy you need to look at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to run through a list of names. I'm doing this off the fly, guys, so bear with me. These are just names that maybe have been around the Broncos that are at least, again, initially 48 to 72 hours. We'll see exactly how this all plays out. But I'm going to run you off this list of names, and you guys can jump in and tell me what any of these that are maybe stand out to you. Kendall Hinton, Montrell Washington, Aaron Patrick, Fayon Hicks, and I thought there was one more in here, if I remember correctly, but I'm showing on a list that Mike Purcell was released. I don't know if that's correct or not. So,
yes, he was. He was released, but the expectation is he's going to sign back tomorrow.
Okay, very good, very good. Wow, guy that came back and took a contract, cut down his contract, came back on a friendlier deal, still gets cut, and possibly now looking at maybe up, coming back. So
the big part of that, Keith, is if you want to have players that are injured that you don't want to put on injured reserve and you want them to come back with that designation to return, they have to make the initial opening 53-man roster. So player like right. Jerry Jeudy is not a guy that's going to actually be put on injured reserve, but a guy like Riley Moss, potentially, a guy like PJ Locke, a guy like K'Wan Williams, who just had ankle surgery. Yeah. They have to make the initial 53-man roster. And so what you do is you typically go and you talk to your veteran players, guys that are like, you've made this roster. Guys like Quinn Bailey, by the way, was just waived, and he's going to potentially make this roster. If he makes it through waivers, they're going to bring him back. They need that spot, the spot for Mike Purcell as a nose tackle. They also released Tyler Lancaster as well. The Broncos don't currently have a nose tackle on the roster. They waived Mike Purcell after renegotiating his contracts, saying, you're going to be back on this roster. Give us 24 hours because we got to get PJ Locke on the roster and then put him on injured reserve with the designation to return here in a few weeks. And then that's when the roster math gets even more tricky. So with Purcell, he's going to be back tomorrow. I believe Quinn Bailey was one that was expected to be back tomorrow. Fabian Moreau is another one that's expected to be back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Heard that as well.
And there's another one. I can't remember who it was. So all of those guys, while they may be released right now, it's a procedural move. So don't get too much up into a frenzy about these guys not being on the initial roster, because 24 hours from now, this roster is going to change like 4 or 5 spots.
Was the last one little Jordan Humphreys? Because we talked about that earlier.
He's expected to sign back to the practice squad, according to Mike Kliss.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and we got Michael Ronquillo coming in, little Jordan Humphrey as well. He also, just piggybacking on what we were talking about earlier, saying linebacker Drew Sanders can make plays that other players just can't make. And Jody jumping in, and we talked about this a little bit. Jody, our absent host, I didn't even address that, man. I just blew right over that like he's not even a part of the show.
He's scared.
Jody couldn't make it, guys.
He's scared. He doesn't want to talk with me anymore. That's why he's not. I'm kidding.
Oh, man, we're getting throwdowns now, Jody, man.
I love Jody. He's awesome, man.
Oh, man, I smell a second invite. Get you and Jody all lined up. But he's saying what is Denver's plan at wide receiver? We got a little bit to this. Lance brought up a fantastic solution in Traquan Smith if he's available. And then we had Jamison Crowder that was suggested by Kenny from the K&K Sports Show. I think there's still opportunities like we were talking about, little Jordan Humphreys being one of those guys to maybe bring those guys back in that we've already seen be released, maybe be brought back in. I know a lot of people had Callaway, on that bubble line. Like I said, I would certainly like to see Grimes somehow make it and be part of this team. Certainly just not be exposed to the other 31 teams because I think he has something to prove, and it might be a year or two, but I think he's got it. So, boy, I want to take one quick break, guys. And the reason I want to do is because we have a couple of things. A, we're brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, and we usually do a little bit of a quick break here in the middle and just talk about that. Rocky Mountain Sports Network, we're growing, guys, and we're growing leaps and bounds. Check out some of Albert's fantastic articles, or my own, hopefully another one coming here pretty soon, over at Rocky Mountain Sports Network. If you go into the comments section, it's right at the very top, guys. Check it out, RockyMountainSN.com. That's RockyMountainSN.com. You can obviously follow us on Facebook, YouTube as well. I also want to just get to our fantastic sponsor, Willow Seasonings and Blends. Willow Seasonings and Blends is a Colorado-owned business, Denver Bronco owned business. They're a Blue Ribbon award-winning sauce and seasoning rub company. And guys, they just went out and they just placed top 10 with a couple new sauces, a couple of their sauces just recently. Check them out, Rocky Mountain. I'm getting all tongue-tied up all over myself. WillowSeasonings.com. That's WillowSeasonings.com. They have a fantastic promo just with us right now. You get 15% off. Go into your promo code area, type in DBR2023. That's DBR 2023. When you do that, you get that 15% off. Not only that, guys, we have a great friend of the Rocky Mountain Sports Network who unfortunately passed away just recently, left his wife and his kids, with a lot going on in their lives, and we're trying to help him out with that. Willow Seasonings is donating $1 every time you use that code on top of that 15%. So spice up your life. Go over to WillowSeasonings.com. And hey, also check out Rocky Mountain SN. Check out Albert's fantastic latest article and more to come. So, guys, thanks for letting me take a break here real quick. And want to just kind of dive in. I was thinking about this a little bit today. I want to get your opinion. This is just my thought. Are we seeing a Saints 2.0? Because we've certainly seen a lot of Saints. Will Lutz was our most recent addition. Or in my opinion, are we seeing a Seahawks, maybe AKA Legion of Boom 2.0? Which side would you side on if you had to? Lance, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you the honors as the guest. Are we Saints 2.0 or Legion of Boom 2.0?
I think it's actually closer to the Saints 2.0 because not to say that Sean Payton is like bringing all of his buddies from the Saints, but I think that bringing in guys that understand the culture, whether it's Lil Jordan Humphrey, whether it's Marquez Callaway, whether it's Tony Jones, whether it's Will Lutz that they just traded for today. These guys understand the culture that Sean Payton wants to bring to this roster. And we've seen it over and over and over again. You better be tenacious. You better be tough. You better be willing to work. You better be willing to put in the 5 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at nights as a player, and while Russell Wilson meets that category, I'm not necessarily pointing him out on this one, but Lil Jordan Humphrey's been there. He's been through the ringer with Sean Payton. Marquez Callaway's been there. Tony Jones has been there.
Yeah.
You're bringing in a different culture and resetting the culture and bringing in guys that know how to be quality pieces in the locker room and quality pieces within that culture is the time here. Legion of Boom 2.0, whatever, man. Like it's not even close to the same system in my opinion. Sure, we're going to be blitzing a lot. We're going to play some cover 3. We're going to play a lot of man coverage, but that's not the thing there. I think that the culture is the big thing you're looking at. Albert, what do you think?
The culture definitely has changed for way better, for 1,000% better. We right now, I think we have a winning culture, a winning
Yes.
environment, and we haven't had that for the last 6 years. And since Kerry Kubiak left, we have not seen a winning environment, and we have that again. And I think, and that is the biggest difference that we see. You can see it in the players. The players, it looks like they have joy, they have fun, and even although the regime might be strict, but guess what? That is what the players need. They need boundaries because we saw it last year. If you don't have boundaries, you're not getting anywhere. And even the little victories, even on the sideline, you see coaches being enthusiastic about it, enjoying it, and that is something we haven't seen. You might want to call it Saints 2.0. I don't care. I call it a winning environment.
Yes.
Yeah, and not to be disparaging, Saints 2.0, Legion of Boom 2.0, I didn't necessarily mean it directly towards the defense, mainly just the Seattle and the structure and what they put more around Russell Wilson. So I should have iterated that better, not reiterated. I'll iterate it better. But
you're good, Keith.
That being said, I get the point, man. The culture change is shockingly large. You can see it from training camp through preseason. You can see it just in the way the players interact with the media, with the way the coaches interact with the media. You can see it in the play on the field and the little steps that they've been able to make through the games that that this coaching staff has placed upon this team. So, the reason I brought up the Seattle thing was mainly because I think a lot of people expect this to be, a Drew Brees high flying, especially near the meat of Drew Brees' career, where the ball's gonna be flying out all over the place because it's Sean Payton, and that's what's the type of things that people associate with Sean Payton, that 4,000, 5,000 yard passer. You know what I mean? That just blows up the league and is leading the league in yardage. We're not going to see that type of system, and I think it's going to be a little bit closer to what we saw from a Seattle-based offensive system, something a little bit closer to what Russell Wilson is used to, not what Russell Wilson wants to do, which is what we had last year, but what he was used to in Seattle. So, it's probably a great little fusion of both of these things together. But I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. Of course, Michael Ronquillo coming in saying Saints 2.0 for him, and Facebook user, which I'll see if I can jump in and take a look and see exactly who this is, but saying No Fly Zone 2.0, which, hey, we got to love the No Fly Zone. That's ours, man. No Legion of Boom 2.0. I understand. Yeah. That's a little tough to maybe take in the mouths of Broncos fans. So No Fly Zone 2.0 maybe makes us feel a little bit better. I appreciate it.
So here's the thing.
I want to piggyback up. Go ahead, Al. Go ahead. I want to piggyback off of something that Keith said, but go ahead and get your point out really fast.
So to get a 4,000 passing yard game, it is only 235 yards per game. If you have 20 catches over 10 yards, you're already at 200 yards in a game. So 400 yards, 4,000 yards in the season, I think it is still easily doable, and even with a run-heavy scheme. If you have 20 plays, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead there, Lance.
Well, and Albert, you actually brought a great point here, because I think that you're going to see a lot more shot plays. But I just going back to piggyback between the difference of the Legion of Boom and the Seattle Seahawks and what they were doing with Russell Wilson as compared to the Sean Payton mold of what everybody believes this offense is going to be with Drew Brees. And yes, you're absolutely right. With the air quotes here, if you're watching us live or listen after the fact, the air quotes here, the big thing that you see with the Seattle Seahawks when Russell Wilson was in the Legion of Boom, they ran the hell out of the football and played play action passing game. What happened when the New Orleans Saints first originated with Sean Payton and they brought in Drew Brees? Drew Brees was coming off of one of the nastiest shoulder injuries we've ever seen. That was against the Denver Broncos, by the way. John Lynch dislocated Drew Brees' shoulder so bad he couldn't pull his arm down below his head. He was literally stuck. Drew Brees at that particular point was literally like, there were people saying he was incapable of throwing the football. So what did Sean Payton want to do? We're going to establish the run, and we're going to create this play action and passing attack with a guy that knows how to throw play action. He can read the field on the one side, get his head turned back around, hit the backside dig, right? So the backside in route. We're going to fake the play action, turn our head back around, throw the backside in route. That is this offense. We literally just watched it in the Los Angeles Rams game on last Saturday. Play action passing, backside dig route, Albert Okwuegbunam tore everybody apart.
Yep.
This is the offense that we are going to see that's very similar to the early onset of Drew Brees, the early onset of the Sean Payton offense, which also ties into what Russell Wilson did very, very well. Play action passing, deep shots, hit the dig route over the backside, throw the post over the top. Like, this is going to be a very similar offense. And Keith, you brought up a very, very good point here. I understand now your question. Is it going to be more of the Legion of Boom or the Sean Payton offense? Let's go back 15 years ago. The Sean Payton offense led into the Pete Carroll, Legion of Boom, Russell Wilson offense. They're very similar. This is going to be an accentuation offense of what Russell Wilson does best. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see, 25 rushing attempts a game, 25 to 30 rushing attempts a game with Russell Wilson working on play action, working outside of the pocket, the bootleg passing attack, like extending plays with his legs. That's what we're going to see this year. And I think that's a very astute point. And now that I understand your question, that's a really, really good one. Thank you for bringing that. I'm so glad you just said that. I'm so glad you said that.
Well, good. I appreciate it.
And Russell Wilson had a couple of years that he had over 4,000 yards passing games.
Absolutely.
And only 16 games.
Correct.
17,
now, I will say, the league has changed, and now the 4,000-yard standard is not the high standard. When Drew Brees was putting up some of the highest totals, and they were totaling in the 4,000, that was leading the league. That's no longer the case. You got to be pushing 5,000 in order to be leading the league at this point. I just don't think that, again, that's a place that we're going to see Russell Wilson live. It's just not the type of offense that we're going to, put on the field.
You're exactly right. You're not going to see 600 passing attempts from this offense this year. It's simply not going to happen. If you get 350, you're going to be lucky. Like 350 passing attempts, maybe 400. You're going to be lucky to see that. Like Drew Brees. I wish I had the numbers here. I had it all written down. I actually tossed a notebook away. But Drew Brees, when at the height of his career in New Orleans, only had 2 receivers go over 1,000 yards 6 total times.
Wow. One
of those receivers for 3 of those was Jimmy Graham. Like, you're going to see the tight end aspect of this. The other 2 times that ever happened was Michael Thomas and Brandon Cooks. If you are expecting that from Russell Wilson this year, you're getting high like Colorado. Milky Chance likes to say, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys answering the question. Like I said, just something that kind of came off the top of my head. Guys, we're getting right up against the clock. I want to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of time to say our goodbyes to all of our fantastic friends that we had in here. By the way, let's just go over this real quick. By the way, I said by the way twice. That's kind of wild, but this is my good friend Jeremy that's jumping in and saying No Fly Zone 2.0, and I just wanted to give him a shout-out since we get Facebook users. So thank you, Jeremy, for jumping in here. Late, but here nonetheless. So Ernie Mays, Michelle Knoppers, Michael Ronquillo, Jeremy. I know we had a few others that were in here as well. We appreciate you guys and being part of this. I got a big ask for you guys. I believe I threw it in there. If not, I'm going to jump. Yeah, I did. Right at the very top of the comments, RockyMountainSN.com. It's the YouTube page. I want you guys to go over there and subscribe if you don't mind. Like, share, subscribe. Why don't you go out there, hit that bell, make sure that you're locked on to our YouTube channel. It's going to be a big part of what we're doing in the future. I want you guys to be a part of it, so please go over to YouTube, make sure that you're following and hitting that bell, making sure that you're getting notified when we go live. Albert, appreciate you so much being here with me tonight, especially since Jody, our missing host, was also missing, and we do miss Jody, even though I completely blew over the top of that to start the program. But Jody, sorry you're not here. Miss you a bunch. Albert's here though. Albert, give us a few words. I'm going to give Lance the final ones as we get out of here. But what do you got for Broncos country? What do you expect in the next week? And what do we? Anything else that you want to add to the conversation, sir?
So I've been wanting to ask this question for pretty much the entire show.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Because it was a good show, and now I get the opportunity to do so. Do you think we will see 21 or 22 sets? Because I think that would be. What poison are you going to take? Are you going to take Jaleel? Are you going to take care of him? Are you going to take Pookie? Are you going to take Pirine? Or is it going to be Jared Judy on the other side and Dulcich on the other side? So what do you think of that one?
Go ahead, Lance.
All right, so I know we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel this year. I know that for a fact. We're going to see a lot of Adam Troutman playing specifically on the strong side of the play as a lead blocker. And depending on which running back, whether it's Jaleel McLaughlin, whether it's Samaje Perine or Javonte, who, by the way, I just learned this a little bit ago, is recovering from one of the most freaky knee injuries ever. Like 3 ligament knee injuries are like, they don't happen. It's not NFL. We're talking basketball, baseball, soccer, volley, like every sport, like 3 ligaments in a knee. That doesn't happen. Yeah. And Javonte Williams is ready to start week 1, which means I get to change my Twitter handle, by the way. But I know we're going to play a lot of 12 personnel. My big question is, how much are we going to see 22? And Albert, I think you're right. I think we are going to see some 21, whether it's Jaleel lined out in the slot, whether it's Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams both like lined up side by side against Russell Wilson in the shotgun, whether it's Javonte, Samaje lined up wherever. Like, we're going to see some 2 running back sets. 22 is where I really think this team is going to be like focused on, because they want to run the football. And let's not forget, Michael Burton just came in and won his spot as a fullback. You also get Nate Adkins, who won his spot as tight end number 4, who also was in the rotation at fullback as well. And he looked good as a lead blocker in his. There was 10 snaps in the preseason games we got to see, but he was out there knocking heads around. Michael Burton looks really well, and he carried the football a couple times too. He's going to be a guy that is going to be a focus of this offense, even if it's just a minute part of it. 22 personnel, I think we're going to see that a lot this year. Whether it's Burton, whether it's Nate Adkins, whether it's Adam Troutman in the backfield, because I think that's a sneaky wrinkle that we need to talk about too, especially in the play action passing game. 22 personnel, I think you're going to see a lot of it. It'll probably be 15% of the snaps total, but 15% of the snaps is 10% more than we saw last season. So yes, 21, 22 personnel is definitely going to be a big focus of this offense moving forward.
Not only a big focus, but I think it's going to be absolutely dynamic. I think it's going to be a piece that we haven't seen, as a part of this Broncos, scheme, this offensive scheme, in such a long time. It'll be exciting to see. I agree with Albert, and just the thought process altogether. Seeing 2 running backs lined up in the backfield, choose your poison. Certainly we could see some motion out. We could see him getting into a wide receiver set as well. It's amazing what the possibilities, especially when you have a coach like Sean Payton who can draw it up better than anybody, and what we could see. Lance, I appreciate you guys so much for jumping on here. You even struggled through your 1995 internet connection for an entire hour, so that was amazing as well. We appreciate it. we can catch you, it seems like, all over the board over there at Mile High Huddle. Talk a little bit about what you guys got going on over there, when we can catch you, what you guys got going on. Give it to us all. You guys do fantastic work. We'd love to support you as well.
Yeah, well, and Keith and Al, you guys both know I love you very much, and all of your guys' support, and everybody that's watching this show. Please come and check out my show that I host on the Mile High Huddle Podcast Network. It's Dove Valley Deep Divers every Friday at 6 p.m. Tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be jumping on with Thomas Hall on Mile High Insiders as Luke Patterson is taking a vacation, so I'm going to be filling in with him tomorrow night as well. But Friday nights is my particular show. We do a great job. My co-host Eric Trickle, we do a lot of deep dive information. We try to go outside of the box with the typical topics and try to bring you information that people don't necessarily talk about. So it's a great show. Maybe not for everybody because we clap back on a lot of people, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You can always find me on Twitter if you guys want to get at me. If you're on Twitter at Lance S_MHH. I'm always there. My mentions, my DMs are open as well. If you want to shoot me a DM, I'm always there and ready to talk football. Also, guys, at Mile High Huddle, if you guys are on Twitter, at Mile High Huddle is a great way to follow us and understand what we do. Whether it's breaking news, analysis, opinion articles, film breakdowns. I'm going to be doing film breakdowns this year.
Wow.
My big plan, and to kind of give a little bit of inside baseball here, my big plan this year is to do film breakdowns of the upcoming opponent, finding a critical matchup that the Broncos can try to exploit, and naming a player for the Broncos that can exploit that. And then after the game is over, finding out if the Broncos have actually done so using film from the all-22 perspective and showing just some good football content. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. But outside of that, guys, it's great to join you. Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you for dealing with my my nonsense internet feed and everything like that. But as I always like to say to everybody, you all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend, great rest of your week. And as always, go Broncos.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate it a ton. 100% Dove Valley Deep Divers. Check him out on Friday. I always have a hard time with that one, but he's 100% true, guys. If you're a loyal, in-depth type of fan, I'm guaranteeing you it's the show for you. Everyone can enjoy it, but if you're like that diehard, really breaking it down, really know the details, you're going to love this show. Expect, like you said, a little bit of pushback if you come with an opinion that's maybe not always, universally accepted. But it's a fun show. I love your guys' content. Love jumping on there on Friday nights. And you, Lance Sanderson, Eric Trickle, check them out. Do a fantastic job. Just a couple of quick ones before we get out of here. Michael Ronquillo, we all know Gary Palmer, and he's a great supporter over at Mile High Huddle. He's been on our show as well, supporting us through the comments. Michael's just saying I'd like to send his prayers to Broncos fan game of Gary Palmer on the loss of his brother. Nick and Carl from the building, the Broncos sent prayers to him. So also we got Patrick Wiltsey coming in here right at the very end and saying aloha. So aloha to you, sir. Appreciate it very much. From all of us here at the Denver Bronco Roundup, brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, and of course sponsored by Willis Seasonings and Blend. I appreciate you guys all so much. Again, thank you for all your comments. Thank you for your support. Make sure you're, like I said, go over to YouTube. Please go in there. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're hitting that bell. Make sure you're following, liking, subscribing right here on Facebook. You can. I threw this up. I forgot to throw this up because I always. You know how it is. There's always things going on. Trying to balance it out. Trying to be in the producer. But guys, you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. This has been another fantastic episode of the Denver Bronco Roundup. Until next week, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the show. And we'll see you, like I said, next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Let's get out of here, guys. Giddy up. Go Broncos. Thank you so much.